Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday, everyone. This is Mark Ian Griffin on the Christpreneur Daily Devotional. I come here every Monday through Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And basically, we share the Word of God. And in the context of for entrepreneurs, for specifically, Christian entrepreneurs or Christpreneurs, so that we're able to glorify God in the marketplace. Because in marketplace ministry, we are the front line. We are the first people that a lot of people experience when it comes to coming to know Jesus. So it's really important that not only do we, obviously we want to have that relationship with God, but also start to be able to emulate God in different places of our work. So today so I'm on a platform called StreamYard. So if you are watching this live, there should be a link right above that says streamyard.com/Facebook. I'd love to say hi to you, pray for you. If you could just say hi, but in order for me to see your name, you need to give Facebook permission to talk to StreamYard so I can actually see your name. Even though you may be watching this on Facebook, technically I'm not on Facebook. I'm on StreamYard. If you want to join us live, please go to jc-networking.com. Now, in the past, I've been going live stream in both of my groups, the Serve and Rise, which is my coaching company for Christian entrepreneurs, and then the Christpreneur Network, which is for Christian entrepreneurs so they can connect and collaborate and things of that nature. But what's going to happen is I'm going to only be streaming live on the Christpreneur Network starting Monday, inside the group and inside the on the main page. So we're going to kind of change it up a little bit. So as far as checking in with us live, go to jc-networking.com and we will connect. And you'll be able to join us live. Of course, also if you're on YouTube, same thing. Go to the link here so you can join us live. And I think I'm going to start adding the link to the YouTube channel so that people can subscribe and share. All right. So today we're talking about 10 biblical financial principles, which is really a big deal because we're entrepreneurs and finance is a big part of what we do. Even if we weren't entrepreneurs and we're just working a regular job, finance is a huge piece of what we do. And this was part of my devotion today because God's been really working with me as far as like how I handle my finances and stuff to make sure that I'm really honoring Him. So it was something that I wanted to share with you guys because I thought it was really important. Let's see. Greetings, Facebook user. Thanks for joining us today. I will say hi to you. I'll go into the Facebook account later and give you a like and a love. But for right now, greetings, blessings. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to just hop on into it because there are 10 principles, and I try not to go too long. But and there's a lot of good stuff here. So first off, God is our source, right? That's the first principle, and I think it's right that it's the first one because we can really find ourselves striving and running around in circles. Sometimes when in my coaching, I'll talk about the SOS or shiny object syndrome, where a person is, always striving and running to this thing and that thing and the other thing, trying to create income and not becoming centered and focusing on God as our resource. Philippians 4:19 says, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to His riches and glory in Christ Jesus." 2 Corinthians 8:9, "And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work." So So God has promised He's not going to forsake us. The Christ talked about, He's a good Father. He's not going to give us a a rock when we ask for bread. Now, the caveat to that is be careful that we're doing things in what He's called us to do. When we get to a place where we're just striving for money, that's kind of the thing that, and I think we talk about it here, where we don't want to strive for money. We honor God in our work, and He'll bless our work, right? But the focus is we are following God. Excuse me. Man, sorry. Yeah. Prov. Ginger ale. Should have bottled water. In any case, so principle number 1, God is our source. Principle number 2, giving is essential. This is something I went to a Bible study. A friend of mine used to have a Bible study. Cliff Copeland would have his Bible study, and one of the things he talked about were spiritual principles. And it was funny because he said, some people benefit from spiritual principles even though they may not be quote unquote spiritual, or they may not be following after God, but they do things, because it comes back. And God, being our Father in heaven, who knows all things spiritual, he say, giving is something, obviously we tithe and we give offerings and things of that nature. But sometimes we can find ourselves at a crossroads, right, where we say we may not give because of our finances, our budget, and we're not giving first fruits. So the verses that I have for this is Luke 6:38. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, runneth over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And here again, God is our resource, right? He's where everything comes from. And when I was in the military, I used to, religiously, and it was religious. That was part of my problem. I was very religious, doing things by rules and not really having a deeper relationship with Christ through the Holy Spirit. Things are different now, but that's where I was then. And my car broke down, and I had to put this money to the car, and I had to go to counseling and stuff. And I was a young guy. I was like 24, 25. And I remember this Marine sergeant, or retired Marine sergeant, or actually it's a gunnery sergeant. And if you don't know who that is, just imagine your your hardest of the hard Marines. If you see any Marine movie, Full Metal Jacket or whatever, and that guy, that was the guy I was with. He wasn't as hard as if we were in boot camp, but he basically got on me as for giving so much, what he perceived so much to the church. And as a young Christian that's really not mature, I followed his advice, right, which was not godly advice. It was, he was really, looking from his worldly view. Any case, wasn't the best thing for me, and I'm not going to get all into it. But the fact is that it really hurt. I wasn't really honoring God with my finances, and so that's something that we really want to make sure to do. It. We're giving, we're tithing, because tithing, God promises that we can't outgive God, But when we're not honoring God with our finances, it's like we're not honoring God with our business. We're not. That's when we're kind of taking possession, and we're like, okay, God, this is my business. This is my thing. This is my thing. Yeah, okay, yeah. You created all things, God, but I'm just going to run this thing because I created it. Well, God gave you the resources to create it. So, yes, you created it, but He gave you the resources and imagination and the creativity to do it. Let me hit this. Proverbs 3:9. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of your produce. And that just goes into, honor. If the business that you're in, what you do is you're called by God, then and here again, it doesn't matter if you are an entrepreneur or you are working a regular 9 to 5. The scriptures say that even rulers, people who are in place in power, are allowed in place by God, right? Because all of this is working towards His good, to His glory. We don't see the way this whole thing works out. Even in biblical times with the Babylonians and the Assyrians, God used them. Obviously they were not God-fearing people, right? They were terrible people, but He used them as elements of chastisement for the Israelites. So He uses them for specific reasons, right? Until He can get to where everything is back the way He wants it to be. Okay, next part. Living on margin. And this was really interesting. And there's no real Bible verse for this. It leads more to wise counsel. Excuse me. But man, goodness gracious, I'm sorry. What it leans into is when we always need to behave as if something may go wrong. So in other words, when I was in the military, right, we had a saying that if you're on time, you're late, right? That every time you show up to a place, you show up like 15 minutes early, right? Well, our finances should kind of be the same way. When if we're going on a vacation, we're doing things, there should always be that margin that something might go south, right? And if we live on a margin, in other words, not living just at we have just enough. If we can start operating where we have that margin, the way we live our lives and the way we practice our businesses will be a lot more successful, a lot more honorable. Now, that being said, rainy day savings, you probably heard it said, 10% to tithing, 10% to savings, and then 80% to what you need to do. And then, of course, there's investments and stuff like that where you can split that up. But the point is, let's go to Proverbs 21:20. Precious treasures and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. It just goes to savings. Now, the parable that Jesus talked about with the guy with the barns and who had a lot, right? And then he had so much, but instead of choosing to give, he built bigger barns, right? And I'm actually going back because it's just popped into my head, because we do want to save, right? We want to make sure that there is, there is something in the barn, right? But we don't want to hoard, So the parable, and I should have put this in there, but I hadn't thought about it until just now. But it's the verse where Jesus says, where the guy says, I have all this grain. What do I do? Okay, I'm going to build bigger barns, and so I can have more grain. And then it says, "Thou fool, don't you know that your soul is required of you today?" So all that grain, all that wealth that he stored up goes to somebody else. It was completely worthless. So, but it would have counted him profit had he, instead of trying to just hoard more, to give to those who are less fortunate. So that just goes back to the idea of giving, but it also says it's like a caveat to the rainy day savings. Save but don't hoard. Next thing, keeping out of debt. And this is something that is, if you're familiar with what is it, Dave Ramsey, at my church, we had Financial Peace University, which is a really good course. People have different views on it, but in a lot of ways, it's really good. From a lot of very practical standpoints. Going to Psalm 37:21, the wicked borrows but does not pay back, but the righteous is generous and gives. So here again, it kind of goes back to that one parable of the guy with the barns, right? Now we don't know if he, took and didn't pay back, but he definitely was not righteous because he did not give. He had much and hoarded it, right? Proverbs 22:7, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. Yeah, we don't want to be that, right? But unfortunately, if you look at the situation, I can say of our country, but even worldwide, there's tons and tons of debt. There's tons and tons of people in economic ruin because we have we've gone into debt on things that were unwise. People have bought boats. I was in the car industry, auto sales industry, and I tell you what, I didn't like. I hated selling Corvettes and I hated selling Camaros. The reason why is because no one really needed a Camaro. No one needed a Corvette. Okay, they wanted a Corvette, and that's cool if you can afford it. But I preferred to work with people who actually, needed. Like I worked with one gentleman. He's a postal worker, and his wife worked at in the school system. Really great couple, right? And they had been taken for a ride, and they were really getting their finances under control. I mean, they had car loans that were like 25%, and we were going to be able to help them where they were much more reasonable at 5%. But it was kind of painful because there was still a lot of heavy debt that they were dealing with. But they were definitely in that place where the rich were ruling over the poor, but because of the financial choices they had made. So it's just when we go into debt, we have to take a step back and just really decide, okay, is this something, if we're going to go in debt, okay, most people probably don't have, $250,000 to put on a house. They might have $20,000 for a down payment. So there is, some debt that's reasonable, but because if you're buying a house, but when it comes to certain things that you don't need, you just want, and the credit card is super, super dangerous, because we can impulsively just buy something and be in debt. So keeping out of debt is really, 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 really want to stay out of debt. Okay. The secret of contentment. There's another verse I'm thinking of, I just popped in my head that I should have put in here. But secret of contentment, excuse me. When it comes to your business, so a lot of times, sometimes we may want our businesses to be really, really big. And unfortunately, I know some pastors who are like this as well, who want to have really big churches, right? And they're striving so much to have a big church, but it never really grew. They weren't content. So there's a Bible verse that says, do not despise small beginnings. And God's going to have what you have where you have it, and it'll grow. It'll be where it needs to grow. It may stay small because that's how he needs you to be. It may be bigger. He's going to bless it, but we have to be content with where we are. In Hebrews 13:5, keep your life free from love of money. I'm going to point out love of money, not money, but love of money. And be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. So here again, it's not about we're working for the money. Okay. Yes, we are paying our bills. Yes, we are, planning our lives, God willing, because we can make plans, but God's like, okay, I really got something else for you. But we want to make sure that we're doing things, but for the love of the money, we have to be very careful about that. Pastor Rick Warren, a lot of you may know, who wrote the Purpose-Driven Life, and he made a lot of money from that book. But what he did was he kind of flipped it on his head because he didn't want to be tempted with the money. So what he did was he only took 10% of the revenue from the book sales, and 90% went to he gave to the church. He did that specifically because he didn't want to find himself, tempted by the wealth. Okay, keeping records and budgeting, and this is something that I struggle with. I used to be good at this, and then I kind of dropped off. But I'm working on this now. Proverbs. Ooh, that kind of didn't come out right. So that's supposed to say Proverbs 24:3-4. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So, and then Proverbs 23:3. Buy truth and do not sell it. By wisdom, instruction, and understanding. In other words, and it says buy, B-U-Y, in other words, purchasing. Truth, purchasing, wisdom, instruction. In other words, when we are managing our finances, when we're budgeting, when we're doing these, more like when we're planning out our finances, this is big wisdom. That's probably why it's in Proverbs, right? Because it's big wisdom. Hang on, someone said something. Hey, good morning, Tanya. Good to have you. Lord bless you. Good having you today. Thanks for joining us. Keeping records and budgeting, all these other things that we've talked about savings, about giving, about staying out of debt. All of these things have to be done with wisdom, and we have to keep records because this is the way we're able to keep those margins. This is the way we're able to, if we're looking to, have our rainy day savings, we are going to, we want to buy something in the future. We stay out of debt because we're saved up for it. But all these things have to be done with records and budgeting. Never ever just kind of by the seat of our pants, right? Don't co-sign. Don't co-sign. It's especially when I was in the car industry, but I was also auto sales industry, but also when I was in I was in real estate for a few years as well. And I have seen some bad things happen because of co-signing. And you may want to help a family member, you may want to help a good friend, you may want to help, but if you co-sign, especially like I remember one father, he was co-signing for his daughter. Now, and it was like a Chevy Cruze or something like that, a small car, a nice car just for start a teenager going to college. Nothing extravagant, right? I think it was probably like $19,000 or $20,000. Nothing crazy. And as a matter of fact, he leased it. But the whole point of him co-signing was to help his daughter's credit. So when he co-signed, what he did was he had a perspective of, okay, I am taking on this debt. I'm co-signing with her, but I'm taking this on, and that's really whenever you co-sign, you have to have a mindset of, okay, this is going if this goes south, which it could. Someone could lose a job. Someone can get. I mean, God knows these days with COVID and everything else, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, things were crazy enough without COVID. Now COVID's in the mix. and now they're talking about different variations of COVID, and just all kinds of craziness. So you don't know what's going to happen, right? So co-signing on someone's loan or whatever, you have to consider, okay, if this goes south, can I afford to pay on this? Okay. Proverbs 27:13. Take a man's garment when he has put up security for a stranger, and hold it in pledge when he puts up security for an adulteress. It's pretty heavy. But take a man's garment when he has put up security for a stranger, and hold it in pledge when he puts it up for security for an adulteress. It's pretty harsh. But the point of it is just don't co-sign. Don't put yourself in a place where that person who you've co-signed for can put you in a bad position. And then work hard. And this is I want to say this is obvious, but it's still relevant. In Genesis 1:1, which I didn't put in here, but I mean, we're assigned to work right away. Well, not 1:1, but in the book of Genesis, right away. I think it's 1:26, where we're assigned as human beings. Adam and Eve are told to cultivate the earth, right? So we're always, so there's never a time when we're not called to work as human beings, right? Proverbs 14:23. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Okay, and we've all probably have seen people who talk a lot of talk, but they don't actually do anything, right? Proverbs 28:19. Whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits will have plenty of poverty. And when I talked about earlier about the whole, going this way and that way, not really moving forward in one thing, and worthless pursuits. That's also worthless pursuits. These are things. These are hobbies. These are these things that don't produce anything for you, but maybe pleasure, right? But it's not really work. So yeah, I'm gonna let the Lord work with you on that one. But as far as what are worthless pursuits, also seek godly counsel. And this is our last one. And Psalm 1:1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. Proverbs 15:22. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Now, as entrepreneurs, because most people watching this are entrepreneurs, seek godly counsel. I would also say seek counsel from successful Christian entrepreneurs. And I say successful Christian entrepreneurs because there's going to be Christian entrepreneurs who maybe aren't so successful, and so the counsel that you receive, while it is well-meaning, their wisdom is limited. So you always want to get counsel from someone who is already where you want to be, not someone who's still striving to get where you're looking to go. That wise counsel, the ones who have already gotten to a particular place, and you can follow them, you can count on what they say because they've gone through a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the roadblocks, and so that your opportunity to be successful in a particular endeavor is a lot higher than getting counsel from someone who doesn't understand what you're called to do. So that's it. A couple last things. Serve and Rise, that is my coaching group. So if you're looking to grow your business, your message, mindset, marketing, those are things I focus on. It is specifically geared towards Christian entrepreneurs. And I also want to remind you that I am having a Blessed Business Fast Off Challenge to help people get more clients, and that's going to be on April 19th through April 22nd, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And you can get the link either inside the Christian Entrepreneur group or the Serve and Rise group. They'll have the link there. All right, that's it, guys. You have a blessed day, awesome weekend. See you Monday.